Last week, as we gathered for worship, I said that the only proper place for theology to begin was with the awareness that the world is not the way it should be. Who knew how profound those words would become by the end of the week? Before one can speak about the light in any meaningful way, one must first acknowledge the darkness. Today I wanted so much to move from the darkness to the light. But I cannot. The events of Friday morning in Newtown, Connecticut at Sandy Hook School made all of the preparations for this week moot. I wanted to sing and dance and celebrate, to anticipate God breaking into our lives anew in the Christmas spirit. I wanted to tell you how thrilled I am to be here with you, that I believe that the best days of ministry still are in the future for Gethsemane Lutheran Church. And I am excited about what God may unfold in our midst as we work together to bring the good news to the world that sits in darkness. I am by nature upbeat and positive and enthusiastic about tomorrow and the new thing that God is doing. But today I cannot dance, and I cannot sing, and I cannot trivialize the pain and suffering at Sandy Hook by jumping to the joy of Christmas. The dark must be acknowledged. This world is not as it should be. Children should not die before parents. 6- and 7-year-olds should not see their playmates and schoolmates slaughtered before them. And high-volume guns designed for nothing but killing should have no part in a civilized society. The darkness must be acknowledged. After the tragedy of 9/11, our then President George Bush encouraged us to get up and go shopping. It was intended to be a statement of defiance in the face of terrorist attacks against America. But in reality, it tended to direct our attention away from analyzing the reasons behind 9/11. It tended to make us ignore the darkness, to pretend that it did not exist, to scapegoat and dismiss any culpability we might have had in a world so torn apart by hatred and violence. And worst of all, it tended to move us away from grief towards seeking revenge, rather than seeking solutions to this nation's estrangement from so much of the rest of the world. It amounted to whistling in the dark, pretending that everything was all right. Let's just get on with life and don't dwell on the dark side. That desire for seeking revenge rather than solutions, that desire has led us into 2 wars, and the darkness continues to ripple throughout society. Don't you see? The dark side refuses to go away unaddressed. It refuses not to be recognized. And it will continue to rear its ugly head amongst us until we embrace the darkness as part of who we are, as part of our own human psyche. The world is not as God intended it to be. We are not as God intended us to be. But we can be. That is the message of Jesus. We can be. We are called to be salt and yeast and light for this world of darkness. But what good is salt if it's lost its saltiness, or yeast if it has gone stale, or a light that is hid under a bushel? The darkness surrounds us. Someone once said, "I would rather light a single candle than to curse the darkness." But to light that candle, the darkness must first be understood and recognized and embraced. It cannot be ignored or denied. We might want to point a finger at the obvious perpetrators of overt violence and scapegoat them by labeling them as unbalanced or insane. But if we are honest with ourselves, they are only the tip of the iceberg. Our darkness is that we are a culture of violence. We, and here I am speaking about our culture, we are the world's #1 arms merchant. We spend more on military than the next 10 countries combined. Our sports are violent. Our video games are violent. Our #1 myth in our world culture is the myth of the redemptive value of violence. The belief that violence will solve our problems. And yet, in the face of all that, we pretend to be shocked when violence occurs in our midst. We forget the Holocaust happened. Rwanda happened. Columbine happened. And now Sandy Hook has happened. In the United States alone, in 2012. On April 2nd, 7 people were killed and 3 wounded at a Christian college in Oakland, California. On July 20th, 12 were killed and 58 wounded in a movie theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. On August 5th, 6 people were killed at a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. On August 24th, 8 were killed and 8 wounded outside the Empire State Building in New York. On September 27th, 5 were killed in a Minneapolis workplace. On October 21st, 3 were killed in a Milwaukee spa. And on December 14th, 28 people were killed. Included among them were 20 children at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. We are a culture of violence. We don't even need to mention the hundreds of soldiers who silently come home in body bags. And we don't need to mention that a large percentage of our homeless population is made up of war veterans with post-traumatic stress syndrome for the violence they witnessed or even participated in while serving their country. We don't even need to mention the violence of human trafficking or of domestic abuse. And the list could go on and on. We are a nation of unspeakable darkness. Much of it caused by human beings. It's no wonder we want to sing Christmas carols and jingle bells and pretend that all is brightness and light. But the darkness cannot be ignored or suppressed or denied without resurrecting itself in some form of destructive violence within our midst. Perhaps the number one theological question in the face of such darkness is, how does God figure into such things? If God is all-powerful, why does God allow such things to happen? Well, there is more than one approach to how one answers that question. Perhaps the oldest and most traditional approach is to simply ignore divine violence. Just close your eyes to any text that would implicate God in any part of the darkness. God is in no way responsible. The devil made us do it. A second approach is to